Good evening, viewers. It's nice to be back again. This time, I've been asked to give a Christmas message. I remember a companion of mine, Father Francis Pinto, who was buried on the 10th of this month, advised me on how to present a message. He told me when addressing a message, begin with an interesting opening and end with an interesting conclusion. And then he smiled and he said to me, make sure you keep them as close together as possible. In the 1960s, Bob Dylan had written a song entitled Times They Are Changing. And I'm sure Bob Dylan would be shocked at the pace and the tempo at which times have changed since he wrote this song. In some countries, the very idea of Christmas seems to be changing. Commercial interests seem to have taken Christ out of Christmas. I remember reading a little passage about how in one country, now it was Christmas season, in one country, two teenagers were walking down the streets of a big city and they were admiring the display in the windows. Now, in one of the windows, they see a display of a traditional crib with Mary, Joseph, Jesus, some cattle, and some shepherds. And interestingly, they stared at this display of the crib, and one of them was overheard telling the other, oh, so now they are bringing religion into Christmas. In one little phrase, they are taking Christ out of Christmas, and the very idea of Christmas was wiped out. Now, what is this idea of Christmas? One way of communicating an idea is through the medium of storytelling. In the past, during the Christmas season, carol singers went from one house to the other telling the Christmas story. Human life, especially in India, human life is unimaginable without stories. Through stories, we touch life and its meaning. So, when two or three gather together, stories begin. Now, can you imagine to yourself if two or three are gathered together in the name of Jesus at Christmas season? I wonder what stories will be told. They will probably begin like this way. Once upon a time in Bethlehem, uh, I'm sorry, I think I'm encroaching upon somebody's territory. And I'd like the group that has come here to tell you the Christmas story in their way. So go ahead, tell our listeners about the Jesus story and how Christmas began. From my long experience of working among Christian communities in urban and rural areas, the time of Christmas was always a time of peace, a time of joy, a time of reconciliation. First of all, peace. Peace reigns where Christmas is celebrated. And I'd like to narrate for you this little story that I read about some time ago. It was the 23rd of December during the Second World War, and fighting had been fierce in one particular or one arena. The battle was fierce. As dusk fell, there was silence. There was a respite in the firing across the borders. And then the British soldiers, they heard and they saw in the distance a group of German soldiers sitting around a fire. And what were they doing? They were singing carols. So the British soldiers stood for some time in silence and they listened. And then they responded, or they began singing carols from their side. And these two groups of soldiers singing carols alternately sang a carol in the ones that they are familiar with. Now, this alternately continued into the night, and interestingly, the commanding officers who had seen this understood the sentiment of their soldiers. So, under the security of a white flag, both the commanding officers negotiated a truce that on the day of Christmas there will be no attacks, no counter attacks. Now, the idea of Christmas, peace to men of goodwill, was evident in the experience of these men at war, even if just for a day. If for some reason in your families or in your neighborhoods you are at war with each other, here is a message for you. Go ahead, give our listeners the message that you would like to convey to them. Well, I'm back again to tell you another story. But this is not just a story, it is from my life experience working in or among Christian communities. I realized Christmas brings joy, brings happiness to the atmosphere where it is celebrated. And I'd like to share with you one of my own experiences. I was for a long time trying to bring about a reconciliation between a married couple in my parish. But I made no headway, and I nearly gave up in my efforts. After midnight mass one day, or one Christmas night, the husband approached me and he was going on insisting that I visit his home. my immediate thought was, here they are at it again, going hammer and tongs with each other, at war with each other. So reluctantly, I offered to accompany the husband to his home. And when I entered the home, I was pleasantly surprised to see a clean, well decorated home with fairy lights, a Christmas tree, a crib. The husband and the wife thanked me for my efforts at trying to bring about a reconciliation between them. And then they told me, we have decided to bury the hatchet. We have decided to stop quarreling. Now, in the course of my conversation with this couple in their newly decorated home, I overheard the little son who was sitting on his father's lap. I overheard the little son saying to his father, Daddy, can we have Christmas every day? I think the little boy expressed his joy at what Christmas had done for his parents. And his one big wish was that Christmas would reign in their home forever. I leave it now to the group to tell you in their way this particular sentiment of Christmas. Well, back again once more with yet another story. The story that Christmas paves the way to reconnect and reconcile. It is another little experience I'd like to share with you from my pastoral life. A closely knit family of father, mother, their two sons, they lived happily and they had a very contented life. Within a short span of time, the parents die, one after the other. Then came the settlement of inheritance between the two brothers. And this became a bone of contention, causing bitter enmity between them and their families, not for a day, not for 2 days, but for many years. One day, the elder brother decided to take the initiative of being reconciled with his younger brother. So he approached me to see if I could be of any help. As he told me, he says, I had promised my parents that I will keep the unity and keep the relationship between ourselves alive. So he asked me if in any way I could help, and honestly, to be honest with you, on hearing his story, I was in a quandary because I knew that matters of land and property settlement would require a miracle, a major miracle to be sorted out. Not knowing what to do, I sat with the elder brother and decided to say a prayer with him. So we prayed, asking God for guidance in this sensitive matter of settlement of property. In the course of my conversation after the prayer, I really do not know what made me say this stupid thing to the elder brother. I told him, I said, listen, it's Christmas time. And if you, as the elder brother, If you are to take an initiative, begin in a small way. And you know what I told him? Send your younger brother a Christmas card wishing him and his family the joy and the peace of Christmas. After I advised him on this, I felt rather foolish. But the elder brother did just that. He sent his younger brother a Christmas card greeting them for Christmas. That little gesture really worked an unexpected miracle. On Christmas Day, the elder brother heard the bell ring, and he went to the door and he opened the door, and lo and behold, his younger brother with his family standing at the door. They had come over to greet the elder brother. So both the brothers embraced and reconnected after many years of estrangement. Christmas had created an opening for them to reconnect. Both brothers continued, in spite of the differences they had, but both brothers continued to negotiate about the inheritance. But now they were able to do it in an amicable way. I have many other stories to say, but I better stop here and allow the group to convey to you in their way the Christmas story. And I'm sure by the end of this program, you, your children, your grandchildren, and your great grandchildren will understand why God, who so loved the world, sent his Son not to condemn, but rather to create an opening where there will be peace, joy, reconciliation. I take this opportunity of wishing you all a very happy Christmas. Thank you.